Sometimes life at home and life at work can seem worlds apart. Just ask Dustin Deming. As a doctor and researcher, Dustin lives by precision, organization, and order.
We also were able to see deposits of cancer within.
At home,
Let's put these in the right ones.
the operations look a little different.
With a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, my wife and I definitely have our hands full.
As different as they are, both parts of Dustin's life share the same roots.
So I grew up in Waupun, Wisconsin, born and raised. Went there for high school. That's actually where I met my wife. We're high school sweethearts. I had a teacher in high school, Mr. Leela, who really challenged us in chemistry. He made us kind of think out of the box, and that really got me excited about science. When I entered undergrad at Marquette, I knew that I wanted to at least get some research experience.
4 years later, Dustin headed to medical school at the University of Wisconsin in Madison, focusing on colorectal cancer.
A big part of that was just the idea to make a difference for people. About 150,000 people in the U.S. each year are diagnosed with colon cancer. 50,000 people die each year from colon cancer.
After years of fellowships and training, he landed a job at UW Hospital's Carbone Cancer Center, working in the lab and at the bedside.
I wanted some of each. I wanted to have time in the lab, but also make sure that I had dedicated time to patients.
But just 2 weeks into his new job, Dr. Deming's professional and personal lives came crashing together.
Probably the biggest question that came into my life is, am I going to die? When I was first diagnosed, it was obvious at the colonoscopy that this was cancer. And my wife was there in the room when the physician talked about the results. We both knew immediately what this meant. It's one of the most ironic things that a 30-year-old rectal cancer specialist gets rectal cancer.
Soon, Dustin was both a doctor and a patient, undergoing chemo, radiation, and surgery.
I was actually seeing patients in clinic while I had a chemotherapy pump around my waist, and there was a couple instances where patients were asking me specific questions about chemotherapy, and I could show them what chemotherapy actually looked like. Hello, hi, it's Dr. Deming from the UW. How are you doing? My mindset completely changed after being diagnosed with cancer. Before being diagnosed, I thought a lot about the science of cancer. I actually think now that it's much more important that we connect emotionally, and I understand the emotional side of how they're dealing with their cancer diagnosis. This green, all the green stuff here.
More than a year and a half after his own diagnosis, Dustin's cancer is in remission. But Dustin says his time as a patient still influences his work as a doctor.
So one of the questions I like to ask my patients now when I first meet them is how they're sleeping at night. You know, when the lights go off and things are quiet, what's going through their mind? There was one patient who came to see me who had a cancer exactly where my cancer was, and he was concerned that he did not want to go through with the treatment for that cancer because the surgery that's needed for this type of cancer requires a permanent ostomy being placed. And so the thought of having a bag placed for him, he thought was more than he could ever deal with. And so I was actually able to sit down with him, look him in the eye and say, I've been there. I've had that surgery, I have an ostomy, and your life doesn't end after having an ostomy placed.
Experiences like that have given Dustin a new perspective.
That I would never wish cancer on anybody, but in a lot of ways I actually feel very grateful. It's one of those things, had I actually been diagnosed with colorectal cancer at the average time frame, in my mid-60s, I may have already been done with my medical career. I wouldn't have been able to have this opportunity to actually interact with my patients on this level. That was a hard one. Good job. My turn? For me, it also made me think more about my faith. Now I enjoy even the simplest things because you never know what's going to happen in the next day.